On today's episode, we are traveling back to the 50s. We're going to talk about three sci fi books that, well, kind of predicted the future. Mom's here. Let's talk. So, as we know, every decade has their best books, right? I mean, there's lists like New York Times bestsellers, right? So I just thought for today, um, the 50s it turned out to be actually integral for sci-fi.
Well,
And what's
that's
really
good,
funny about
Bob. Your mom was born in the 50s. So I'm very interested in this.
then we will learn you're gonna laugh because two of the three are actually the same author, which shows either one of two things. Only a few people actually wrote, or those few people actually wrote better,
Right,
you know.
right.
Um, so sci-fi obviously is still one of the biggest genres out there. Not as big as romance. Romance still takes, I think, top seat, but sci-fi is probably in the top five. And the one thing people love about old sci-fi is the predictions of what's to come prior to things like the internet or cell phones or whatever. And what's even more interesting is a lot of times these books are written by people who have some sort of background in kind of the minor sciences, whether it's a little bit of physics, a little bit of
Mhm.
chemistry, whatever it was, or they just have a very strong viewpoint of it. So let's hop into the first one here. And this one is one of my favorite books. I don't know why. It's just a very intriguing storyline that I think has not been copied. So obviously he did something right. So Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451. You've probably read it in high school. You probably reread it three times in college, like I did. But this is the world where books are banned, but not just banned, they are burned, and people choose comfort over thinking. Um, Again, feels a little too quote unquote real with the bunny ears, right? It's not just censorship, it's distraction culture, is what they call it. Ray Bradbury actually said once in an interview the danger of turning people into morons by television. Um, you can obviously tell what he thought about media. But at the same time, it is a very interesting take on general censorship, media control. The New York Times has listed it among the most influential books of the 20th century, even to this day. So I don't know if you remember reading it or if you had to read it, but what do you remember of it if you did read it? What do you remember?
What I remember is thinking back is that it sort of foretold the future.
It did, and that's I think why.
Books are being burned now. I mean, banned and burned. Um, since what's going, it's almost like, and I say this about a lot of science fiction books, like where did they get all these far-fetched ideas that are no longer far-fetched, and in fact we are living in it right now, and this is one of them. I mean, I often say that we stop teaching critical thinking in school. We just, and when you lose your thinking,
Right.
right, you can't make educated um, thoughts.
So yes, and Bradbury for him, if you've read anything on him or you've listened to interviews, he was very not so positive about how things worked. He was one of those people that said, if you're not careful, and again, he's not the only one, but he's one that when I think about authors who are against the system,
Right.
he comes to mind almost immediately. Now, for the second one here, we are going to Isaac Asimov, who actually studied robotics, artificial intelligence, and other sciences. And he gave us I, Robot, which, again, another book that everybody knows, turned into, I think it was a Will Smith movie back in the 90s or 2000s. This introduced what's called the three laws of robotics, basically how robots work, how artificial intelligence works.
Hmm.
The idea here was what happens when something other than a biological entity, like a human or an animal, thinks. What happens when a machine starts to think?
Right.
What's funny though is that this is misconstrued a lot by how people read it. Asimov never talked about robots overruling, robots going evil, robots going bad. His problem was what happens when you have something else do the work? Does it become less work? Does it become less creative? Does it become less human? He was never worried about things taking over. He was more concerned about literally what, like you said, with what is going on, of machines basically doing the job for you,
Right.
leaving little to do for the rest of the day because something else has already taken care of your job for the day, basically.
Hmm.
Um, he also, considered the foundations of AI, but in storytelling, not necessarily because again, all these two authors here, they're not here writing. This is what should happen. This is what will happen. The other one that's not on this list, but I always talk about is 2001, Arthur C. Clarke. His whole thing was also don't just go to space because you can. Make sure you know what you're doing. Otherwise, you're going to get yourself in trouble. So none of these people were threatening to say, "Oh, well, we're going to be overlord by the Terminator." We are, they're more so they're looking at it from the science point of view. So, what,
I'm fascinated, Rob. I
what do
mean,
you?
we're all in the AI world right now. I mean, this is like right. It's reared its head. It's here. It's not going anywhere. But I never read iRobot, and what's fascinating to me is that it's stories about AI. So if you think about that, I mean, everyone thinks, not everyone, but a lot of people think that AI just showed up in the last couple of months. What they don't understand is they've been using AI for quite a while. If you use Alexa or Siri or whatever, but this is saying back in the 50s, he was talking about AI, artificial intelligence, which, wow.
Well, because I mean, if you think about it, if you think of stuff like the NASA program, when we sent the shuttles out there and we sent all the stuff, we were already building these machines to do work for us or with us to
Mhm.
allow it to happen. So he was not wrong at all. And again, he also threw in his scientific background to say, hey,
Right.
you all might think that in 2020 AI is new. It's not. It's actually been here for 50, 60, 70 plus years,
Scott,
just
it's
in a different.
yeah, and it's
Right.
yeah, and
Now, the last one goes back to Bradbury, and this is his Martian Chronicles. Again, another book that we all remember. And this one focuses on colonization of Mars, but more so the colonization of outer space. But it's not about, again, it's a misconstrued. All these books are misconstrued, and a lot of the times you have to go back and read them. It's actually about human nature. It has very little to do with actually colonizing Mars, and more to do with what happens if you destroy your area, what happens when you get lonely, what happens when you have to redo the whole thing over and start again.
right,
That's what Bradbury does. So he's reflecting on, and he even said it, he's reflecting on humanity, not travel. And this is also something that is used in college courses to study colonialization or identity, literary analysis. So again, even though these are stories about robots and stories about space and stories about whatever, they're not just that. They're actually stories about the human being, as in what you are,
right.
and why you need to watch your steps as you go. Why you need to, um, I don't know, focus on building instead of, I guess, creating, if that makes sense. Don't let something else do it. You do it. You can do it. You have the ability to. You just have to figure out the numbers. So again, you can tell that these authors were very
Right.
critical, but I don't think they were necessarily wrong in this case to be critical. In the case
Well,
that
and
everything kind of ended up turning.
well, and and in terms of the Martian Chronicles, humanity is humanity. So no matter where they're living on planet Earth or on Mars, I think people are people, and people
Mhm.
are going to continue to do what people do. They're not going to change. And that is always fascinating to me because one of the things I think are talked about, we're going to start afresh, or we're going to start anew on a new planet when Earth
Mhm.
has been destroyed, right? Well, it's the people that destroyed the Earth that are now going to go up to Mars or wherever and do the same thing because we never learn. We don't learn our lessons, do we?
And that's exactly what these authors, I think, are trying to say. It's not a matter of, and this is where media always gets me angry because media always makes things look worse than it should. And, Asimov, like I said, he's not saying robots are the overlords of taking over, but there's a difference between you doing good work and you making something else do your work and then getting angry about it if it doesn't turn out how you want it.
Right.
You put it in that position, so you need to deal with the output of what your stuff is going to be. So yeah, I mean, I think if these two were still, I mean, they're probably looking down or whatever, going like, what, and or
Yeah.
I'm more like, I told you
I
so.
told you so.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, "Ha ha." No, just kidding. But, yeah, it's interesting to see, and so the '50s were definitely a time when sci-fi became what sci-fi would eventually morph into
Right.
today, so,
Interesting. Interesting. Do you
yeah.
have sci-fi books in the next chapter bookstore dot
I
shop?
was looking around and I thought we had copies. We might have sold them because I think we had a copy of Fahrenheit 451, but I think somebody picked it up. But
Okay.
yeah, we did have a few Bradbury. I have a couple Asimov that I'm keeping just because.
Because.
And then, of course, stuff like that. But yeah, we have some good sci-fi. We have some good classics in there too, as well. So
So go check it out. Next chapter bookstore dot shop. Rob, as you always say,
go read a sci-fi book today. How about that? Should we mix it up a little bit?
let's mix it up because that's exciting. See everybody next week.